priest in the Old Testament was not allowed to marry anything but a virgin. Come on. I mean, it starts getting narrowing down here, brother. I mean, if the woman was a wildcat, sorry, you can't be a priest's wife. But if she was a pure person, then that was acceptable. It was good for her to be a female. It was acceptable for her to have a clean life. That's the way it's supposed to be. But was it perfect? There is somebody somewhere in this world that God has designed for you. The trouble with most people are they're not waiting on the perfect will of God. I dare say we would be shocked to high heaven if we had an honest survey and people had to tell the truth how many marriages are in misery. That in the church, I ain't talking about out in the world, I'm talking in the church, where people would, if they had to tell the truth, say, I'm enduring it rather than enjoying it. I'm just going along to get along. Because I know when I was a teenager, I messed up. I wasn't waiting on the will of God. I just had my hormones running 150 miles an hour, and I wanted a girl or I wanted a boy, and we went and tied the knot. Some of them don't even tie the knot anymore. They just go for it. But the amazing part about it is that most people that are in so much misery, and that's why you got so much flirting and carrying on in the churches. That's why you got this one's wife looking at that one's husband, and this one pressing around and got a burden for this one over on this side, and this one wants to counsel with that one, and this stuff is straight out of hell. It is demonic, and it will wreck you, it will ruin you, it will destroy you. Now stop and think about it. You may not want to hear this, but now there are some qualifications for people in the Bible that are going to be used in the ministry and the deacons, and it's very strict. If you're going to be a bishop, you're going to be the husband of one wife. Boy, it gets tough, but that's just the way it is. It's the will of God. If you're going to be a deacon, brother, you've got to even have your children under subjection. And you better think about who you marry, because a woman can disqualify you from being a bishop or a deacon. And you got to be able to be one that will rule well your own house. Because if you can't take care of your own house, how can you take care of the church of God? Somebody say amen. Boy, it's getting tight, but it's right anyhow. It's in the book. Now, the reason I'm saying that is not to throw stones at somebody that has already went through a divorce or whatever, but what I'm telling you, and you take somebody that has done been down that road, they can tell you that ain't no picnic. There's a lot of pain, a lot of heartache, a lot of misery. There's a lot of children that are messed up for the rest of their life because of it. And homes are destroyed. When you start getting into the multiple marriage situation, then you got children that brought up, and then most of them will say, bless God, you ain't telling me what to do. You ain't my daddy. I don't care if it her lips or devil. I'll do what I want to do. Then you got mamas that'll sit back and they'll take the kid's side against the husband, and all hell breaks loose, and here we go. It's a mess. But what makes it a worse mess is some people never learn from their mistakes. It's like they constantly jump right out of the frying pan into the fire. They'll leave one idiot and go get one that's worse than that one. They'll leave one drunk, go get a dopehead. It's just like they never learn. They just keep getting worse and worse. I know a little boy over home, I just heard the other day, just heard yesterday, him and his wife just got divorced again. Him and that one woman has been married and divorced 3 times. They're the same woman. Well, that didn't count the others that she's married and the others he's married. I mean, it's like 6, 7 times now, and they don't learn nothing. They just keep on and on. When in the name of God is somebody, now young people, I know this sounds crazy to you, and I know when you go into high school and all this stuff, all you're thinking about is being a cheerleader, or if you're one of the boys, you're looking at that prissy little cheerleader out there jumping around with her pom-poms and almost no clothes on, and then your hormones is running wild, and you're thinking, oh God, man, I'll be somebody if I can catch her. slow down and listen to what this preacher's saying. Because 99 times out of 100, anybody that go out there and show their body off to everybody in the school, need I say much more? They ain't a whole lot to them. And I want to tell you something. When you're running around like that and acting like that, stripping off, no clothes on hardly, and all this stuff, showing yourself in front of everybody, do you think that anybody that ever wants to be in a ministry wants you? That's why preachers need to preach about standards in the church. It's bad enough to see a cheerleader at a high school or college game. And there's a lot of guys, ain't doubt my mind. They watch them ball games. They don't care about football. They want to check out the cheerleaders. I've heard some say that. Now you stop and think about this. If you've got any intentions down the road of ever doing anything for God, does it not make sense? You better try to find the perfect will of God. Amen. This don't just apply just to women. This applies to men. Women, I don't know what in the name of God we're coming to in this last day in this generation in the church. There is more cleavage. There is more body forms shown in a lot of churches than there used to be in bars. The skirts, if they're not short, they got to slit all the way up. That's right. The blouses keep getting lower and lower. And then, when anybody's dressing like that, the first time somebody looks at them, they kind of go, dirty old man, look at me. Well, what in the name of God do you expect? Amen. You dress like a slut, expect to be treated like one. Amen. Amen. I've always thought if the car ain't for sale, don't put a for sale sign on it. And it goes for the men. Men that'll run around in church with their shirts unbuttoned plumb down to their belly button like Carmen, trying to be pretty boy, trying to work up the flesh. Come on, I don't care how good he can sing. He ain't got no business, no pulpit. Men that wear pants that are 3 sizes too little, they've got no business, no pulpit. And I got news for you. If a man or a woman will dress like that, that is not the perfect will of God for you. Not if you're serious about serving God. We need to stop and think about what we're doing. Because somewhere down the line, you mark it down, you may get the prettiest little Hellcat in town. But somewhere down the line, when you're preaching the gospel, instead of her on the altar praying for the people, she'll be out sleeping with somebody else. While you are out here trying to cast out devils, she's going to be smoking dope and popping pills. While you are trying to do something for God, you have got a living nightmare on your hands. Somebody hear me. It's time to pray. It's time. And you better be proven to yourself and to God that you mean business with God. Amen. That you may prove that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. How long has it been? I want y'all to think about what I'm saying. How long has it been since you've seen a marriage that honest before God you could say, if I could, I want my marriage to be just like theirs? How long has it been since you've seen a woman that loved her husband and submitted herself to her husband the way the Bible said to? How long has it been since you saw a man that loved his wife like Christ loved the church? I'm not talking about being a drill sergeant. Lord, I get out in the head of the house. Bring me some Kool-Aid, woman. Try to bring it, dump it right on your head. Just because you're a male don't make you a man. Just because you're a man don't make you a husband. Tonight, if I had to die before God, I could probably count on one hand how many marriages I know, and after 35 years in the ministry, believe me, I've had to deal with a bunch of them. And I'm talking even in the ministry, I could count on one hand the ones that actually I know adheres to the Bible. But let me tell you something. Everybody seems to be dreaming of that perfect mate, that perfect will, that perfect combination. Don't disqualify yourself before you ever get there. Amen. I heard a woman say some time ago, she said, it is a living nightmare to be married to Mr. Wrong when Mr. Right shows up. Oh, it's getting quiet. There are people right now that are on nerve pills that are depressed to no end because they realize they messed up. You'd be surprised how many people just coexist in the home. They don't love each other. Actually, some of them despise each other. They wish their God wanted to leave and never come back. But there are a few that are saying, I am going to wait, and I am going to pray, and I am going to turn my heart and my life and my body, my soul, everything over to God. My life, my ministry, everything is laid in the hands of God, and I'm waiting for the perfect will of God. I know a couple right now that I declare to God, when I see them in action, I just sit and drool. This is the most loving couple I have ever seen in my life, and I've talked to both of them, and behind the scenes, it's like they just almost worship the ground each other walks on. But when they come into a church and they start working in the ministry, it's like a Swiss-made watch. You can see they were ordained to be together. It's like she can read his mind, he can read hers, and they just flow together in the Spirit. I've seen them working prayer lines together, and I've seen here some time ago, I saw him start delivering a message, not tongues interpretation. I'm talking about deliver a prophetic message, and went so far, and she picked up and finished it. Man, that blew my mind. I thought, good God Almighty, you talk about being one in the Spirit. You talk about being hooked up, and they are so close that what few times they have to be apart, times he has been in wrecks. 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, God wake her up out of a dead sleep and show her husband was in a wreck, and she had hit her knees and began to pray. The same thing has happened with him, that God would show him that his wife was in danger, and he would begin to go into the travail and spirit and pray. And brother, let me tell you something. Nothing could be more beautiful than for some two people to find the perfect will of God. Where you don't have to worry about them going out on you. You don't have to worry about them cheating and lying and conniving. And you don't have to worry about them when you get ready to do something for God. They want to do something for the devil. Two can, and the Bible said, how can two work together, or walk together, I should say, except they be agreed? You don't put a mule and a racehorse in the yoke together and expect it to work. No, you can't be one of them trying to go one way and one trying to go the other way. It ain't going to work. I'm not even going to ask for a show of hands, but I want to ask you a question. How many in here tonight would like to find the perfect will of God? You better stop and think about the decisions you're making right now. Because you may be a young man or young woman and think, I've got all kind of time to live. But I'll tell you something. The one you yoke up with, you will be affected by it for the rest of your life. And it will make you or it will break you. And sadly, most of them will break you. And there ain't no sense of going on, running off like a wild horse and getting yourself in a mess and then get mad at every preacher in the country that won't let you preach. Because if God's word disqualifies you, honey, you're disqualified. Like it, lump it, or whatever, and it don't matter whatever backslid 6-foot icicle in the country says, it's over. You've thrown it away. Amen. And I feel honest before God that there's somebody right here that is about to throw it all away. And it's going to be too late when crying time comes. You might as well get ready. You go out and sit down in the middle of the railroad track, the a train coming, don't get mad at the engineer when he runs over you. While you're sitting down in the middle of the highway and 18-wheeler makes a mud flap out of you as he runs over you, ain't no sense fussing at him. Somebody had better wake up before it's too late. You're throwing it away. You're ruining yourself. But the will of God sometimes is hard to wait on. I have people all the time ask me, say, well, Brother Larry, why aren't you married? I almost got married before. I was engaged. I was. Thought that I had the perfect mate. We'd been going together 4 years. Everybody thought this was the dream couple. The sports hero, the beautiful blonde, everything just Boy, here we had it going on. Until that beautiful blonde looked me right in the eye. Everything I ever dreamed of in a woman. But she looked me right in the eye and said, I will not be a preacher's wife. I'll go to church. I'll do anything. I won't be a preacher's wife. We started having all kinds of trouble. But I knew I couldn't give up the ministry. Finally, one night, she gave me my choice. She said, it's either me or your ministry. I didn't have to wait 6 months and go on a 40-day fast. Right there, instant, just like snapping your fingers. I looked her right dead in the eye, and I said, it's been nice knowing you. She said, what do you mean? I said, I'm gone. I don't ever want to see your face as long as I live. I'm gone. Nobody makes me choose between them and God. I've had it. You're out. It's over. She almost had a nervous breakdown. She like lost her mind. Dear God, her family, my family, everybody around me, the church, everybody thought I had lost my mind, and they was trying to drive me crazy, trying to get it back in. I said, no, it ain't happening. It's over. Nobody lets it come out of their mouth and tells me it's either me or God. No. And I had people say, give her another chance. No. Because the Bible said from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. If it wasn't in there, it wouldn't be coming out. And if I'd have went ahead and married her somewhere down the line, she'd have said, yeah, I'll be a preacher's wife. But somewhere down the line, she'd have been gone, man. She'd have said, you ain't going out preaching. I don't want you on the road all the time. No. But I'll tell you one thing. A lot of people say, well, wouldn't you like to be married? That'd be fine if I could find that perfect mate, that perfect will of God. But I'd rather be like I am right now than to be in the hellacious nightmares that one preacher right after another is in, one Christian right after another is in. I can be miserable by myself. I don't need help to do it. And I want to tell you something tonight. Somebody under the sound of my voice is better listen to this country preacher. And you might think, well, this kind of preacher's crazy. It's antique. It's outdated. But I want to tell you something tonight. God's raising up an army that's going to do a work in this last day. The question is, are you going to be in it? Are you going to be one of them? You're going to disqualify yourself. You're going to have God to shut the door in your face. And when God shuts the door, honey, there ain't no man can open it. It's over. Are you going to throw a ministry away? Are you going to throw a life away just for a little bit of sowing your wild oats? You better remember, whatsoever you sow, you're going to reap. And before, oh God, why I'm having to say this. Before some of you young people end up pregnant, and some of you boys end up with an illegitimate child, and then you're forced to get married, or you're forced to keep up a family that you don't even have. Now think about what I'm saying. It may be fun to go out and sneak around behind mama and the preacher and everybody else and get out here and get in trouble. It ain't so much fun when you're paying child support. It ain't so fun when for the rest of your life you're going to work like a dog to support a kid that somebody else is going to be raising. Oh, this ain't the kind of preaching y'all come to hear tonight. I can see that. But I want to tell you something. It's real. It's real. Oh, my God. And there's all kinds of people gets killed over these kind of situations. Go ahead and have a child. Then she marries some hellcat. And then you find out he's been beating on your little boy or your little girl And the next thing you know, there's going to be a gunfight. There's going to be trouble. Somebody's going to die. And wouldn't it be awful to be a backslid preacher? Wouldn't it be awful to be a backslid child of God? Somebody that knows better, that has been there, that has told others, and has tried your dead little best to get people to come to God, and then you're dead with your brains blown out because of some mistake? Oh, God, help me, Jesus. What is that perfect will of God? So let's say, well, where's it at? You don't know. I don't know. But God knows. God knew exactly where to find the bride for Isaac. God knew exactly where to find the bride for Jacob. God knows where to find your mate. He knows where she is. He knows where you are. And God can put the perfect will of God together for you. But I want to tell you something right now. Brother Jim Green said he saw this morning premature graves. There are people right now that probably are not going to listen to a word I say, and they're going to be saying, God, I wish to God I hadn't went to church tonight. But I'm telling you, it's time for you to prove your love for God. It's time for you. If you say you love God, the Bible said, if any man say he loved me and keep not my commandments, he is a liar, and the truth is not in him. You can't say you love God and then go down and raise all kind of Cain every night. You can't do it. God says you're lying. Oh, hallelujah. Let's look at something here. The Bible says in 1 Thessalonians 5 to prove all things. Are you ready to prove how much you love Him? I'll ask you a question. Right now, if God, and ain't a doubt in my mind He is doing this, He's not asking you, He's telling you, give it up. Let it go. Walk away. God is telling you, walk away while you're able to walk. While you have got breath in your body and blood still running warm in your veins, and while you are able, walk away. Cut the line. Somebody right now tonight, I feel with all of my heart that you're going to live just to remember this message. But it's going to be sad, doom and gloom if you ain't careful. In 1 Timothy 3 and 10, talks about these people been set aside to be used in the work of God. He said, let these first be proved. You know, the church I grew up in, brother, if you was going to be used, going to be a minister, going to be a deacon or whatever, you didn't just jump up and holler, oh, I felt free chill bumps there, God ordained me. No, sir, they proved you. They set you aside, brother, for a year. You proved you want to do something in the work of God. Once you were set aside for that year, then you were licensed for another year. And then once you were licensed for that year, then you were ordained. You didn't just jump up and run off. Hebrews 3 and 9 says that God proved me, and He saw my works for 40 years. Talk about Moses and the children of Israel. God proved him. God's going to prove you. Will y'all stay with me just a few minutes? What does the word prove mean? The word prove means to test. Somebody's taking a test tonight. What's a test mean? God is checking to see which one you think the most of. Are you like I was? Are you having to make a decision between her and God, or him and God? You better pass the test. Amen. You better pass the test. Yeah. It means to attempt or adventure, essay, to try or to prove or to tempt. In the Hebrew, and another word, it means to investigate. God's investigating somebody here tonight. Yeah. And most people don't want to be investigated. They don't want the law investigating them. They don't want somebody snooping around to see whether you stole this or you done that or whatever. But God, David said one time, examine me, search me. You know what a cop does when he pulls you over and slaps you up on the hood of the car and thinks you got drug paraphernalia or whatever? He searches you. And if he finds the wrong thing, you're in heap big trouble. And tonight God is searching you, and he's trying the reins of the heart, and he's telling you, if I find the wrong thing when I search you, you are going to pay the price. You don't have to have 5 pounds of cocaine on you. All you got to have is drug paraphernalia, and you're in big trouble. And somebody tonight, oh, you may not have been caught in the act, and you may not have done this, and everybody may not do that, but I want to tell you something. I got a feeling God's finding the paraphernalia, and God is running his hands up and down, and he's finding things that ain't got no business being there. Oh, hallelujah. You say, well, I ain't went to bed with old so-and-so, and I ain't done this. Well, get the lust out of your eye. Get the phone cut off, for God's sake. Stop the nonsense that is leading you straight to hell. Oh, God help me. Tonight, the Greek in test means to approve, allow, discern, examine. You go to a doctor. You may not know you got a lump. You may not know that you're in trouble. You may not know you got cancer. That's why they examine you. And a lot of times what they find, you don't want to hear. See, they say, you don't know. My God. Let me ask you a question. Would you like to go through that examination tonight? Most of us would. God is telling us in Genesis 42 and 16 that your words may be proved. David said one time, I will pay the vows that I made when I was in trouble. Look back down the road. Somebody hear me. This is a prophetic warning as sure as I'm standing in this pulpit tonight. Somebody under the sound of my voice, you lied through your teeth to God. You told God all this stuff you was going to do if he got you out of trouble. You lied. And God's searching you, and he's found it. And the hammer's getting ready to come down. Somebody, the love of God, you better do like David said, I will pay the vows that I made to God when I was in trouble. Ain't it funny how you can pray when you're in trouble? And you're, oh God, if you get me out of this, I'll never do nothing wrong. I'll go to church, I'll pray, I'll give my tithes, I'll do this and I'll do that. And as soon as you find out that you're out of trouble, forget everything you said. The sad part is God didn't forget. Because God said, suffer not thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin. For God hath no pleasure in fools. When it comes out of your mouth, God requires it. Somebody say, praise the Lord. Genesis 42 and 15 said that ye may be proved. There are some things that's going to have to be proved. When you go to court, you don't just accuse somebody and then send them to prison. You got to be able to prove it. You got to prove they did what you said. God's asking somebody to prove their love for him. First of all, we're going to have to be proved. Then our words are going to have to be proved. In Deuteronomy, he said to prove thee to know what is in thy heart. Your heart is your mind. Not this heart here that comes blood. That heart don't do nothing. I'll be sorry, I got it right there. Well, bless God, I'm sorry you got in the wrong place because there ain't nothing there but a pump. It's like a fuel pump. The heart, according to the Bible, is the seat of emotions. Out of the heart proceed evil thoughts. You don't think here, you think right there. That's why I said that your mind should be renewed. Tonight, somebody needs their mind to be searched. God said to prove thee, to know what is in thy heart. A lot of times, just like in that scripture, if you went back to it, I don't want you to now, but if you go back to it, you'll find out that God left the children of Israel to prove them, to find out what was in their heart. He withdrew himself. Sometimes God will let you hear preaching after preaching after preaching after preaching and Bible studies and Sunday school, and then he'll just withdraw. That's like in school, the teacher will teach. And then there's all of a sudden you come in there half asleep, maybe on a hangover, and the teacher says, guess what? Pop quiz. Oh, God. And you was out partying all night. You didn't study. Oh, dear. Ain't that a sickening feeling? That's about as sickening as going down the road and you're just having a high old time driving down the road, looking at the sunshine, everything's hunky-dory, and then about that time something gets your attention. And them little blue lights is behind you doing this now. Oh, God, I just messed up my day. And guess what? God's messing up somebody's day right here tonight. Somebody, you're seeing God's blue lights behind you, and He's pulling you over. And He said, going a little fast, are we? Going the wrong way, are we? It looks to me like you're going down the road the wrong way. You're going a little too fast, and you're going to have to pay the price. Somebody here tonight, you mark my words. I hold my hand before God, and I call God and all His holy angels to record this day. If you ignore what I'm telling you tonight, you will pay the price. You will remember this message. God even allows other people like the Queen of Sheba, according to 2 Chronicles 9:1. The Queen of Sheba came to Solomon to prove him. In other words, she didn't come there because she thought he was just the greatest thing in the world. She had heard stories about how wise he was, how rich he was. She came to prove it. She came to prove, I'm smarter than you are. I'm richer than you are. But before she left there, she said, the half has never been told. My God. And she started giving that man shiploads of gold and all kinds of offerings because the woman realized this is something and I ain't like nothing I have ever seen. But the reason she came was to prove that he wasn't what he said. My God. Right quickly, I'm going to skip through some things that's going to be proved. Psalm 17:3. Mine heart, thou hast proved my heart. Daniel, prove thy servants. Prove them 10 days. Malachi, prove me now herewith. The Lord even says, prove me. If God is willing to say, prove me now herewith, do you think He ain't going to prove you? You think it ain't going to be a test? Think He ain't going to say, hey, I told you to prove me, now I'm going to prove you. Do you really want me? Like a message I preach, how bad do you want it? Do you really want the power of God? Do you really want to do a work for God? Do you really want to see a magnificent, glorious outpouring of the Spirit of God down here in Hudson, North Carolina? Y'all may never want me to come back. But I'll tell you something. If everybody in here, and I hope, pray to God it ain't, but if this is peeling hide hair and all off everybody in here, there's one thing you've got to say. You may not like the message, but you know, if you know anything at all about the Spirit of God, you know I love you. And you know I'm not trying to be a smart aleck. I'm not trying to be hateful. I'm not trying to be brazen. I'm not trying to do this in a wrong attitude. But I'll tell you something. You take a church that's no bigger than this right now, and you take a marriage over here, and a marriage over there, and a marriage back there, and a marriage back there, you get about 4 or 5 of them all of a sudden shaky ground and on the verge of divorce, and everybody said, well, you might as well get it over with. Dear God, I like her husband better anyway. Or I like that wife better anyway. Dear God, just get it over with. Let's just, it's almost like going to the stock market in some places anymore. Dear God, just trade out. Get a little bit, go on, you know, dear God. Like going to the car lot, just trade them in for a later model. Well, we might be able to do that legally. But Moses said, God hateth putting away. Yeah, that's right. And he said even from the beginning it was not so. But because of the hardness of your heart, Moses gave the command or the decree to write out a bill of divorcement. In other words, God wasn't pleased with this to start with. That's right. And the people tonight, and I know, first thing that some people's going to say, well, my God, Brother Larry, look at me. I mean, I was innocent. I didn't do nothing. I understand that. But I'm talking about when it's something that you have some control over. There's some people, honest to God, you crawl through razor blades and they'd spit in your face. Yeah. I know that. I know that there are some women that, honest to God, you could treat them like the Queen of Sheba, and they'd go out on you. They'd talk about you. They'd lie. They don't care. Yeah. There's men that does the same thing. I understand that. But I'm saying there are situations you can't control. What's wrong with somebody that's got somebody that'll be good to them and they don't want it? What's wrong with their mind that they'd rather be in a bar than in a church? Something wrong with this picture. Let's go right quickly. There's a man in the Bible in Luke 14 talking about he bought a yoke of oxen. He said, I got to go prove it. If a man will prove a dumb animal, doesn't it stand to reason? An animal ain't got a soul. Don't it stand to reason that if we have got a soul, which we do, that lives forever in one place or the other, either heaven or hell, does it not stand to reason? It's about time we proved that that soul is on the right path. Now, buddy, it's one thing to lose your dogs, cows, horses, and everything else. But I'll tell you what, you lose your soul, you messed up. And you end up in hell. It ain't like somebody going to pray you out of it, bless God. Let's go a little further. I've already read, but I'll mention it again in Romans 12 and 2, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Now let's go to 2 Corinthians. Oh, God. Let's go to 2 Corinthians right quick, and we're going to go in 2 Corinthians chapter 8. You may not believe it tonight, but I am absolutely fighting the demon powers of hell for somebody's soul. More than that, I know churches here lately, much, much bigger. Are y'all with me tonight? Many times bigger than this church, that because of this very subject have been destroyed. Now you take churches that's got 400 and 500 and 600 and 800 or 1,000, even one church I know, 4,000 members. And because of this very subject, they shut the doors on it. Come on, everybody, stay with me. That baby's distracting people like crazy. Stay with me tonight. 4,000 member church shut the doors because of a marriage situation that went haywire, and it got to snowball. Then it got another one, then another one, then another one. I know the preacher personally. I know what I'm talking about. Hudson. Now, you may think just because I'm not here all the time that I don't think about y'all, I don't pray about this church. I love you people. In Alabama, the Spirit of God began to move on me a little bit after 4 o'clock in the morning. I got up and I began to walk around and I began to pray and seek God. And I want to tell you, there is a spirit. There is a demon spirit that has been dispatched from hell to this church. The devil hates where this church is headed. He hates you all, like the brother said, it's the most spiritual church around here. He hates the fact that you all are not satisfied where you are, but you're wanting to go to another level. You're wanting more and more and more. He also hates the fact that you are ready to see the blind eyes open, the lame walk, the cripples healed. You are ready. You want it. You're hungry. He knows it is about to happen. But with nobody saying nothing, what God showed me at between 4 and 4:30 in the morning, a demon spirit has been sent to this church to disrupt the marriages, to cause people that don't even want to lust after somebody else. All of a sudden they've got this raging, burning, fiery desire for somebody else. And it's not just stopping with one. Stop and think about what I'm saying. It don't take a rocket scientist to figure out what's going on. It's going from here to here, to here to here. This spirit is like a frog that's jumping around in this little congregation. To you all, this is a big congregation, and it's a good crowd tonight for this church. But as compared to churches, this ain't no big church. This is a small church. And how easy it would be. Because a church is built on couples, on families, on marriages. How easy would it be for the devil to turn this thing upside down? And it can happen because a marriage is flying apart. It can happen because one woman wants somebody else's and this, that, and the other. And a lot of people say, my God Almighty, I'm going to run from this place. No, I'll tell you what you need to do. Run to the altar and get a hold of God. Because if your marriage is not in trouble, it very well could be shortly. Because this devil that is coming in is not only coming, is already in. This devil is out to destroy every marriage in this church that he possibly can. He's out to ruin every preacher that he can. He is out to shut the doors on this church. A lot of people say, well, bless God, it'll never happen. You wouldn't believe how many churches I've seen or I've warned them of stuff like this, and they'll say, glory to God, it ain't never going to happen. Churches many times bigger than this, and see them shut the doors, for sale signs on them everywhere because they wouldn't listen. I want to tell you, the flesh is weak. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And brother, when the powers of hell are coming in like a flood, if you don't resist the devil, he will take you out. Oh, God, help me tonight. I'll tell you what's a God's truth. Oh, God, help me out. Why me? I was praying to God this morning. I said, God, let Jeff Smith preach this, Lord God. But listen to this. 2 Corinthians 8 and 8. 2 Corinthians 8 and 8. I'm first. Let me go over just a little bit. I promise you, I'm going to close. Hallelujah. 2 Corinthians 8 and 8. I speak not by commandment, but by occasion, for the forwardness of others, to prove the sincerity of your love. Apostle Paul, he said it's time to prove the sincerity of your love. It's nothing unusual for a woman to want a man to prove that he really loves her. Or vice versa, a woman needs to prove to her man that she loves him. And when others are butting in, butt them out. Amen. Prove it. Set your foot down and prove it. Any man there, God, that cares anything at all about his wife, he wants her to be the kind that if another man starts butting his nose in, she's going to nip it in the bud and put him out. If a man wants his wife to do that, the wife wants her husband to do that, this is just common sense. But let me tell you something. It's time to prove our sincerity of our love for God. Do you love God more than you love the lust of the flesh, the pride of life? Do you love God enough to say, man, I'm telling you, I got to shake myself. There are people under the sound of my voice right now, they doubt in my mind, you're good people. You are. I mean, I'm not trying to say you're a bunch of raving maniacs, but I'm telling you this, there are spirits that are overtaking you, and you're not praying, you're not resisting, and you're going down. Somebody had better pray. And I'll tell you what I feel in the Holy Ghost. When you go down this time, you will not rise again. This is the end of the line. You will go down in disgrace. You will go down to total, utter failure. You will be destroyed. This is it. He's not come to play. He's come to kill you. He's come to take you out. Now listen to this. Let every man prove his own work. That's in Galatians 6 and 4. 1 Thessalonians 5 and 21 that I read, prove all things. Tonight, as I'm reading here in Corinthians, a lot of people, they say, I love God. Like James said, Show me your faith without your works. I'll show you my faith by my works. A lot of people say, I'd do anything for God. I'd do anything. I'd go anywhere. I'd give. I'd pray. I'd be a missionary. I'd just do whatever. Would you really? It's time to prove it. It's time to put up or shut up. This is it. As I'm about to close, there's souls hanging in the balance. There's families hanging in the balance here tonight. There are people that's already been down the road that's been through terrible divorces, that's been through heartaches and been through the deal with the children and everything else. And they can tell you, you better listen to this preacher. Somebody might say, well, you ain't married, you ain't been married. What business you got telling me what to do? Hey, Paul wasn't married either, but he wrote more about marriage than any other apostle, every one of them. God is speaking to somebody under the sound of my voice. It's more than just a husband and wife at stake here tonight. There's a church. Now, when this thing starts breaking out like measles and it goes from and I ain't throwing this at nobody that plays an instrument, I'm just using this for example. When it goes from the piano player to the organ player to the guitar player to the drummers, then it goes to the deacons, then it goes to the preachers, then it goes to the singers, then it goes to this, that, now, and it just hops around. Hello, let's wake up. It's a spirit. It is a demon spirit from hell that's just hopping like a frog. That's going round and round and round. But you know what? Tonight, I believe that we can see the same thing that I saw in Kingsport, Tennessee one time. We had a revival over there that went for 3 solid months. 500 and some people saved in that one revival. I have never seen such a unity. I've never seen such an anointing, a corporate anointing, because those people came to the realization of what the devil was trying to do. There were witches came all the way from Pennsylvania down to Kingsport to disrupt that revival. And guess what they got? Hundreds and hundreds of people. We even had the ushers to lock the doors so these witches couldn't get out. Literally locked the doors and stood guard so they couldn't get out. And they was running and screaming and hissing and trying to put spells on us and all that stuff. They got the devil cast out of them. That's exactly what happened. Hundreds of people standing to their feet in unity, and they were chanting the name of Jesus. J-E-S-U-S, J-E.